Married a Canadian girl and been here full time for going on 10 years now. Hey, everybody, this is Gregg Zaun.
This is Anthony Telford.
You're listening to The Walk-Off with Scott Belford and Adam Mack.
All right, super excited to be joined by today's guest, former Blue Jays catcher, World Series champion with the Florida Marlins, former Blue Jays analyst with Sportsnet, and now working in youth player development, running coaching camps, public speaking, and making the odd podcaster's day. Gregg Zaun, thank you so much for joining us on The Walk-Off.
Thanks for having me. Excited to talk a little baseball.
Yeah, we've been excited to talk baseball with you all week. I know you're in Oakville right now. Is that where you spent the whole pandemic pretty much? Have you been keeping busy? I can imagine this has put a halt to most of your camps and stuff.
Yeah, the camp part of it's pretty much non-existent, but I did have my own travel team. I had an elite ball club that I was running, and we were able to keep working actually through it. You know, the lockdown prohibited face-to-face meetings, but thankfully I had finished my training app that I had developed. So it's an online training course. It actually turned out to be extremely timely because they're scrambling to try to get all their training online and electronic and available to players. And I had already done it. I had already pre-packaged it, so I had hours and hours of instructional videos on skills, baseball skills. I had mental skills program attached, and I had hired a fitness guy to put together fitness workouts. So it's a completely packaged, totally great. It was a great resource for my players. They've all got catch nets and tees and baseballs and whatnot. So our guys were able to keep working through the whole thing at home. And I held them accountable. I just basically said, listen, you're going to have to be able to do X, Y, and Z for me when we finally do get back. And if you don't get to hit. And, kids, all they want to do is hit and pitch. So I said, you don't get to step into the batting cage until you pass a few fitness tests for me. And most of them got their work done. So, we finally got back to playing, and we got off to a great start. We were 9-1. We lost one ball game so far, and they're really playing well. We swept a doubleheader on Sunday, and both of my guys threw shutouts. So pretty impressed with the work they put in, and trust me, where there's a will, there's a way. If you want to work hard and you want to get stuff done, there's a way to get it done, and we did for sure as a group.
Congrats. That's great, man.
Thank you.
As a former player that then transitioned into broadcasting, and don't get me wrong, obviously in broadcasting, you're still in the game. Have you enjoyed going into player development, kind of being hands-on again, kind of instead of talking about how great the sausage looks, actually making the sausage?
Yeah, it's been fun. There was a transitional period where I kind of had to adjust my expectations. The last time I played, I was in the big leagues. Now I'm coaching, 14, 15, 16-year-old boys. And no offense, but they're all Canadian. They haven't played a whole lot of baseball comparatively speaking to their American counterparts. And so a lot of the things that I took for granted with kids, that age back where I grew up, I can't take those things for granted. But God bless them. We put in the work, and the kids have really bought into the program. The parents have bought into the program. I mean, I had kids move here. One kid moved here from Lethbridge, Alberta, to play for me. Another kid moved from Halifax. And to watch the kids become better ball players, they're catching up. They're closing the gap on the kids their age down in the States. And I can't wait to get the borders open and go south and let these guys see how hard they've worked and what they've been able to do. But being me, I'm a teacher. I've always been a teacher. And even when I was broadcasting, I was teaching the game to Canadian fans. A lot of fans, they're casual fans. They don't know certain things about the game. They don't know the nuances of the game. And I was really proud to hear fans tell me, hey, listen, you're the reason why I watched the game. You made me a lifelong fan because you taught me certain things that made the game more enjoyable for me. Most people liked my no-nonsense approach. Obviously, there's a percentage of the population that didn't. A lot of the players didn't, because this new generation, they don't like being held accountable for anything. Um, they think any sort of criticism is a personal attack, when it's really just an analysis of their performance, really. Um, but yeah, going back to the original question, I love it. I love seeing the light bulb come on. I'm a chatty guy, so I'll say the same thing 4 or 5 different ways to a player until I see that light bulb come on. And then once it comes on and they're able to take what they've learned, connect with the material, and put it into play, and make that physical and mental connection between something that they see or hear to something now that they're able to do. There's nothing more rewarding than that in sport for me now. I'm kind of a junkie now. I love going to practice. I love working with the kids. And right now we're really getting a lot out of them.
So you have seen then that base level, the gap between American ball players and Canadian players. It's shrinking.
Oh, well, I think it's going to shrink a lot more in times. I can just only compare, what I've seen with my group. I know how far they've come. I think there's a lot of good programs out there. I think there's a lot of phony programs out there that are robbing parents blind. There's programs out there that have these great reputations for what I don't understand. They're not sending any more baseball players to the big leagues than they have before. The same amount of Canadian kids are getting drafted. Those are the 1%ers, and those 1%ers are going to be 1%ers. It's, when you start to see Canada start to put up numbers like California, because I compare the two because, well, for multiple reasons. Both places start with a C. Both places are extremely liberal, and they both have about the same population. So when you see Canada start to keep up with California, one state in 50, then we'll really have something. As far as kids getting drafted, kids going to D1 schools. But right now, Canada just don't have enough quality coaches to keep up with the demand, and they don't have hardly any decent indoor training facilities. And I know there's some people out there that will argue with me and say, well, I've got a good training facility. Really? Do you? You got 10,000 square feet. Your kids can't play long toss in it. So how good could it really be? Baseball is a game of space. There's no time limit, really, but it's a game of space, and you need a certain amount of space to stretch out and be good at things. And long toss is huge. Everybody's always crying about arm health, pitchers, pitch counts, this, that. Kids don't throw enough. They don't throw enough as they're growing up. They don't throw enough properly. The youth baseball has fallen prey to the same moronic thought process of, let's throw it harder and make it move more. And then when we've used up this particular arm, we'll throw it away and get another guy. It's easier to turn a guy loose and say, throw it as hard as you can, make it move as much as you can, sweep the strike zone. It takes more of an effort and more time to actually teach a kid how to throw the ball properly, and then teach them how to locate the pitch. And then on top of that, then you tack on velocity and movement. That's the way it's supposed to go. Proper mechanics, location, movement, and velocity after the fact. They're going in the completely opposite direction. And you see people throwing less, throwing improperly, and their arms are paying the price.
So would you say with this obsession with velocity that a lot of the injuries that are coming from, it's almost like pitchers are disposable? Is that yeah.
Look at what they've done to the bullpen arm. And you guys got to remember, bullpen arms are failed starting arms. They're guys who either didn't have enough of a repertoire to go around the lineup 2 and 3 times. And nowadays it's a joke. It's like 80 pitches and they're out. And yet they're still paying a premium for these starting pitchers. A guy like Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, Clayton Kershaw, you tell me that him at 80% or after his 80th pitch isn't better than every guy you have down there in the bullpen? Come on. But that's why these guys were considered thoroughbreds back in the day. That's why they made a ton of money, because they were special. The way they do the game now, they're not special at all. I mean, they've got guys that are openers and setups. They don't even have like true starters anymore. So I don't understand why Major League Baseball is even paying these guys the premium dollars that they're making because they're not expected to go past 5. They're pitching half a ball game. They should get half their salary. Seriously. And then,
No,
and,
you're
and then you look at the bullpen arms. Like I said, these guys are failed starters. They weren't good enough to be major league starters. And you see it quite often. A guy will have 2 good years coming out of the bullpen because they used him like a disposable razor until he was done, and then they tossed him. And then he's getting surgery, and some other young guy that can throw it through a wall, throw it, make it move, but has no idea where it's going. They bring him in, and I can point to a whole bunch of guys that are prime examples of what's wrong with Major League Baseball and how they are treating bullpen arms. You have a guy named Dylan Betances. He throws 98 miles an hour, maybe even 100 at times. Can't hit the broadside of a barn with his fastball. All he does is come in and show you the heater and throw slider, 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 slider. Carlos
right.
Marmol, when he pitched for the Cubs, throwing 96, 97 miles an hour, but couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with his fastball. Slider, slider, slider. Bases loaded, 3-0 count, Game 7 of the World Series. I'm sitting slider all day long if I got a green light because he's going to do it. Fernando Rodney, same thing. Change-up, change-up, change-up. Jabba Chamberlain was exactly the same way pre-Dylan Betances. Show you the gas, but get you out with the slider. I mean, it's just – and you wonder why these guys' arms are falling off. They can't throw a 4-seam fastball for a strike.
Yeah, this is really interesting because I've always wondered why you see so often when it comes to bullpen arms, a guy who gets taken off the scrap heap and all of a sudden seems to find it again. Like it's like a guy in a bullpen will be great for 2 years and then struggle for a year and will be released and then picked up, and then you watch them find it again. So it's that's got to be part of it then, right?
100% it is. Have you ever seen what one of these guys goes through? It's unbelievable. And they're so dumb. They waste so many bullets. It's not even funny. So a typical bullpen guy, we're talking about a guy that's really good, a guy that's a good setup dude. Maybe even a setup guy. See, to me, a closer and a stopper are 2 different things. The stopper is the guy that throws 100, that comes in and throws 3 chili cheese balls right by a guy. No chance. I need a punch out right now. I don't want the ball put in play. I got my stopper coming in. My closer is a guy. He comes in and starts the 9th clean. But here's what happens. Okay, let's say Monday, opening day. Your starting pitcher, he's done his typical 5 and dive. He's thrown his 80 pitches if you're lucky. Probably thrown closer to 100 because guys don't have any command anymore. So he's thrown 90 to 100 pitches in 5 innings. The next guy comes in and gives you 1 inning, and then the next guy comes in and gives you 1 inning, and then the next guy comes in and gives you 1 inning, and then you bring in your closer. Now, all of those guys that gave you that 1 inning, they're up the very next day. They go out there and they play catch, first of all. They play catch, then they go flat ground work where they're actually throwing the ball at about 75% effort. They're working on who knows what on flat ground. Why would you ever practice your breaking ball or your changeup or anything like that on flat ground? You don't pitch on a flat surface in a baseball game. You get on the bump for 15 pitches and call it a day. But these guys are out there, working the slider. 1 bullet, 2 bullets, 3 bullets, 25 bullets. And then they get up, they sit down, they get up again. Now they're in the game. They go in, they compete. There's 2 days in a row, and they've thrown with warm-ups, side piece, and in game action, they're over 100 pitches thrown.
Jesus.
In 2 days. And they might get a day off, and then they're back at it again, and they're making 70 appearances. But in those 70 appearances, they were up 81 times, 90 times, or excuse me, not 90 times, 90 days, 81, at least 81 days. I've seen guys in every other ball game. They were in 81 ball games as a relief pitcher. But trust me when I tell you, if they were in 81 ball games, they were up probably 90 to 95 days of the full 162.
Wow.
And they're doing all this side work and this flat ground stuff. Their pregame routine. These guys are disposable razors. They throw them away. They don't care. They get 2 good years out of them. They feel great. They toss them.
Yeah.
That's why they love
Wow.
signing into 1-year deals. You don't see too many guys with any mileage on them that pitch out of the bullpen getting multi-year deals because, or more than 2-year deal, because after that second year, flip a coin whether they're even going to be able to wipe their you know what.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. I hadn't even taken into account how much, like when you see a guy in the bullpen with 60 innings, the fact that he's probably actually pitched double that is crazy.
Oh yeah, and then take a look at what they're throwing when they come out of the bullpen. You can almost book it. If a guy's coming out of the bullpen with his hair on fire, and I mean hair on fire, runners on base, you'd be as a hitter, you'd be an idiot to look for a fastball. I don't care how hard the guy throws. They're coming in throwing slider, curveball, splits. Nobody challenges anybody with fastball anymore. They'll show it to you once in a while, but these guys are all doing the trick pitches. And
Yeah.
there's been some studies that suggest that breaking balls are less stressful on the arm. Well, I call BS on that because the natural arm motion is a pronation. It gets here, it turns over this way. Okay, you've seen it all in slow motion, but the slider goes this way, and then you follow through, and then you pronate after you're doing two things. You tell me that's less stressful on an arm? And come in. I watched a guy pitch for. Oh crap! I've only seen one ball game all year. I don't watch baseball anymore. Um, it's true. I think it's gross. The game is boring and ugly, and it's played by a bunch of hacks. These guys can hit it 500 feet and throw it through a brick wall, but they are not polished baseball players. Can't get a bunt down, can't hit a cutoff man, can't do a hit and run. Heck, most of them aren't even fit enough to get through a full season. Like we look at what they've done with Vladdy Jr. Instead of making the kid get into better shape, oh, you know what? Let's just switch him to first base. Like, come on,
Yeah.
it's an ugly, boring game. I don't want to watch it. I don't want to listen to it. It's disgusting. And you know what? There's a lot of guys that I played with that feel the same way. It's not the game that we were brought up playing. It's not the game we were raised to play. Um, it's sad. It really is. And I trust me when I tell you, I'm not a bitter old ex-player that's jealous of the players for making a ton of money. I was a player rep. I want them to make as much money as they can. It's a $9.5 billion a year industry. It's got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
I also remember how hard it is to play because I wasn't a star. I spent most of my 16-year major league career in a damn slump. So I don't want to hear the guys tell me that I'm just some disgruntled old man. The game's ugly. It's played ugly. It's not a fun. How many outcomes are there nowadays? A strikeout, a walk, or a bomb? Nobody puts the ball in play anymore. It's like home run derby. It's ugly. It's an ugly game.
I'm really curious then how you feel about this season because I mean baseball is all about the long haul. It's a 162 grind season, right? You've got the playoffs you got to get through, 9 innings, no clock. And now with this pandemic, all of a sudden it's a 60-game sprint. You're playing 7-inning double headers. You're starting the runner at second base in the extra innings. Do you think this is messing with players and teams? Like psychologically, do you think this is a hurdle for these guys to get over?
This is clown shoes, is what it is. It's clown shoes. I get it. The fans wanted baseball, and they're doing it for the fans, but the fans aren't even at the ballpark, and and viewership is down. You can't deny it. Viewership is down. I've seen it in multiple places on multiple platforms. People are switched off. You know, it might be because of some of the political nonsense, but you know, the fact is that you don't have that ballpark atmosphere.
Mhm.
Not as many people are watching as they imagined would watch. And then when you talk about the actual, status of the game, we're in for a big fight. Actually, I should say I'm not part of it anymore. But Major League Baseball and the Players Association are going to get in a Donnybrook when this is over the collective bargaining agreement. The players negotiated probably the worst CBA that they've ever negotiated because, again, this generation they're soft. They were more worried about creature comforts, like does my massage therapist get to travel with us on the road? You know, how many games in a row are we going to have to play? Like, come on, boys, put your big boy pants on. You're in the big leagues now. This is a grind. This is why it's hard. It's called hard ball because it's hard. If anybody could do it, your mom would be a big league ball player. So I'm like, just come on and get off it. So they've been disgruntled about the last two free agent markets that have gone down and down. Whose fault is that? It's their fault. So now they've all had a chance to dig their heels in because they had nothing else to do and finally get themselves woke up and educated, which happens in every year where there's possibly going to be a work strike or work stoppage. The players all of a sudden decide to start reading the memos and educating themselves. When it's other times, all they care about is getting paid, looking cool, and the champion guys want to actually win, but most of the guys just care about getting paid and looking cool. So now they're looking at this stuff, and I can promise you, this season should have 14 asterisks next to it. The fact that media members are even talking about a guy hitting 400, a guy could possibly hit 500. Really? What? 60 games? And then they're talking about, this guy or that guy is struggling, that guy's struggling. The only reason why you're even talking about it is because it's a 60-game season. Guys get off to a bad 100 at-bats all the time.
Yeah.
That's why I never, ever, ever get excited about spring training numbers, September numbers, or first month of the season numbers. I never get worried about it because the cream always rises to the top. At the end of the year, Kevin Pillar is going to be exactly what Kevin Pillar is. a 230 hitter with a 240 on-base percentage and a bunch of TV dives under his belt.
Yeah.
That's what he is. He's a fourth outfielder on a championship ball club. He's the guy that goes in and plays defense for Manny Ramirez in the ninth inning. Everybody else is exactly the same way. At the end of the year, I was going to be exactly the same player that I was my entire career. 250 hitter with a little bit of pop every once in a while. Could catch and throw a little bit arm surgery, but called a good ball game, blocked the ball well. Veteran leadership on the field. That was it. You weren't going to see me hit 350 with 25 bombs and drive in 100 one year because all of a sudden something clicked. After 1,500 at bats in the big leagues, you kind of are what you are. And this season, if it were 162 games, would be no different. So to even look at a sample size of 100 at bats, it's a joke, especially in a 60-game season. What they should have done was cancel the season for everybody's safety and health, and get busy with Zoom meetings like we're doing right now and start throwing daggers at each other, start throwing bombs at each other, get all the messiness, get all the nastiness out of the way, all the fisticuffs and everything that everybody knows is going to happen. Get it out of the way so 2 seasons aren't ruined instead of 1. Okay, this season's a wash. Can't even call it a Major League Baseball season.
Yeah.
But what are they going to say next year if there's a strike or a lockout? And they could have had an extra 4 or 5 months to settle this and make sure that everybody was on the same page. Guys were going to get paid. Everybody was safe. There could have been a more productive use of the time.
So do you think then, like, is it a wash? Like, is it just there's going to be a strike? Like, there's going to be a big labor dispute? Like, are they even going to get through the 2021 season?
You know what? I can't say with any certainty. I'm bad at the prediction business other than I know, I can predict what a guy's going to throw, where a guy's going to, hit the ball, that kind of stuff I can predict. But that's one of the biggest reasons why I laugh when people bet on baseball, because it's the biggest sucker bet you've ever had in your life. You don't know who was out at the bar last night. You don't know who's got the sniffles. You don't know who's going to have a career day because the stars aligned and it affects the outcome of a ball game. Anyone can beat anyone on any given day in a baseball game with 18 plus players out there on the field and, projectiles flying all over the place and the human element. That's what makes it so great. It's unpredictable. So for somebody to say, oh, yeah, I bet on baseball, whatever, dude. I don't predict. I try to stay out of the prediction business, but I do know people. Okay. The one thing I do know is the players they're pretty pissed off that they're in the situation that they're in. and it's their fault, and they're going to make a stand. Because if they cave in and give the owners a deal like they gave them last go round, they'll never recover. The owners will push them around for the rest of the history of the game. They gave back a whole lot of negotiating power in the last collective bargaining agreement. And I'll be the first to admit to you, with a $9.5 billion industry, I love my trusty calculator. If you were to take 60%, let's just make it easy. So, 9 billion. So not 60% of 9 billion is 5.4 billion, I believe.
Right.
Okay. So 5.4 billion, which leaves the players with 3.6 billion. Is that correct math? So 3.6 divided by 1,000 players, $3.6 billion divided by 1,000 players. And that's if every single guy that came to the major leagues got paid exactly the same. So Mike Trout, MVP candidate every single year, and Joe Schmo, a guy with a cup of coffee, just for making the big leagues, he got his 1,000th, cut. He got 1,000th of a cut of 3.6 billion. Let me see, 3.6 billion. I'm just going to go 3.6 million. I'll divide it by 100. That'll give me exactly the same number. Yeah, that's quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
It's like what? About $36 million per player.
Wow.
That's more money. That's more money than the top guy's making right now, if I'm not mistaken. My math might be off a little bit, but you get my point.
Yeah.
What are they really arguing about now? Back when I was a kid, I got it because it wasn't what it is. But $9.5 billion, and I'll be the first to tell you, the employees should not be making as much as the owners of the team. The owners have to pay everybody now, but their biggest expenditure is player salaries, and that 40% of the $9 billion is covering player salaries. So now all the owners have to cover is day-to-days with stadium employees and all that minimal stuff.
Yeah.
You see how much money is there, and they both know it, and they're going to both dig their heels in, and it's going to be a long, ugly battle. If I'm right, this could go right down to the wire. Right down to the wire, if not bleed into spring training.
This kills me because I just want to watch baseball.
I do too, when it's good. But
yes.
They should have just squashed it. 60 games, give me a break. What the heck is that?
No.
Let's just
you're
get
right.
it over with. Let's start fighting now and get it over with. Don't go to bed angry at your significant other. Stay up all night. And get it over with. Because
let's get the fight out of the way and have a good sleep. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Kiss, make up, and then whatever. But they've dug their trench. They're whatever, and now they're gonna have to deal with the fallout.
I'm loving this, man. Honestly, I've always really enjoyed your take on things as an analyst and just how you kind of dissect the game. And it's funny because as you look around broadcasting these days, you're seeing more and more former catchers kind of becoming, broadcasters. And I mean, we already are well aware of how many catchers are managing and coaching in the majors and the minors. What is it about that position as a catcher that kind of allows you to see the game and take it in and kind of analyze it so well?
Well, first of all, we're the only ones facing that way. Everybody else is looking at me. I'm looking at all of my other teammates. And you get a bird's eye view of how guys play the game. I know a lot about hitting and a lot about catching and a lot about pitching, but I know a pretty good bit about infield. Played it a little bit, even in the big leagues, couple of spots, but I always took ground balls, and I was always picking the brains of guys like Roberto Alomar and, different stuff, and watching their fielding technique, watching the way they did things, watching the way the outfielders went about their business. I saw good stuff and bad stuff. So from an analysis standpoint, you learn to analyze what's going on. You see a guy, does he have a good first step? Where should he be playing on this particular hitter? And having to call a ball game in the big leagues, everybody in the game right now is making such a big deal out of the numbers. And I'll admit to you, I've tried to get a job coaching in pro ball the last couple of years, and they actually said to me that I didn't have the right qualifications to manage baseball in today's game. Apparently, I don't know how to use a Rapsodo, and I don't know, this, that, or the other, and I don't have experience, going to, the Tony Robbins seminar for, advanced teaching and leadership methods and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I thought I got all that as a big league catcher. You guys call them metrics, I call them stats. This was a scouting report. And then, of course, my eyes and my ears told me all the other things that I needed to know in order to call a ball game, in order to be a general on the field, to be the liaison between the players and the coaching staff, to be that guy. The catcher on most teams is he's the liaison between the offense, the defense, the coaches, the players, the pitchers, the position players, the Latinos, the white guys if he speaks Spanish, and on and on. There's just all of those responsibilities. It just tends to be the guy that everybody looks to. And again, it comes back to the fact that they're all staring at me. If I hang my head, they hang their head. All these things that we have to be responsible for makes it so that we are just born analysts. We have to be analysts in order to do our job effectively. And then there's the whole relationship part of it. Building and keeping relationships with your pitching staff. Understanding, especially me as a veteran player, my years with the Blue Jays, all but one, I was the most tenured guy on the team. And those kind of relationships and those kind of duties, they make you really well suited for that analyst job, for that manager's job. But there isn't a whole lot of managing going on in the big leagues anymore. I would say there's probably a handful of guys that actually manage the team. Most, I would say, probably more than 20 ball clubs are managed by the front office. They're managed by the metrics department, the analytics department. They formulate a game plan. They talk about who they want to see coming out of the bullpen and in what situations, completely disregarding the manager's experience, his feel. Those days are gone. They're long gone.
So the managers are almost yes men then. Is that where it's gone to?
They're puppets. They're absolute puppets. Hence the second hiring of John Gibbons.
Right.
He did exactly what Alex Anthopoulos in the front office told him to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, he understood. Stay in your lane, bud. I played for him. Yeah. I played for I'm not gonna comment on, his abilities as a manager. He was a nice guy. And there's a lot of nice guys out there. But there's a lot of guys out there who didn't want to stay in their lane and be told what to do. But you'll never convince me. And I knew it. Probably, I think it was my last year with the Jays. Second day of the season, I'm signed to be the starting catcher, and I'm walking past the manager's office on my way to the shower to get heated up, and I'm listening to J.P. Ricciardi tell John Gibbons to start Rod Barajas behind the plate because his batting average was slightly better than mine against Mike Messina. And I had been signed to be the starter, went 1 for 3 the first day against Chen-Ming Wang. There was really no reason to bench me the second day of the season. But, and then you look at the fact that, JP had an office in our clubhouse. He had an office built for himself in our clubhouse so that he could hang out and basically dictate what was going on. John ran his playbook day after day. And there's a ton of other managers out there that do exactly the same thing. They run a playbook, and the playbook is not theirs.
Huh. So out of curiosity then, I mean, if we're going to talk Blue Jays for just a second, with this team, they've got 2 very young catchers, both of them 25 or under. Obviously, it takes a little longer. I kind of equate catchers to like defensemen in hockey, right? It just takes a little bit longer for them to develop just because of the experience, in-game experience that's needed to kind of become that complete player. Do you think it would benefit this team to have an experienced guy behind the plate, like as a backup catcher, someone who has been there to guide a guy like Danny Jansen or Reese McGuire or whoever they decide to go with? I just feel like I look at this Jays team sometimes, and this year especially, it feels like they lack a little bit of leadership.
Yeah, no doubt. But the problem is those guys, I don't think they exist anymore. Like, who are they? Can you name me one? I don't, like I said, I don't watch baseball much anymore.
Yeah,
I'm more,
I mean,
more focused on developing players. But can you even name me? Can you name me a Greg Zaun that's out there right now? A veteran backup guy? I can't think of one. David Ross is man. The last guy I saw
yeah,
that fit that bill was David Ross, and he's managing the
right.
Cubs.
Yeah.
So you got two really young catchers that, no offense, and I'm not, and this is not their fault. And you know how I speak. They honestly, they don't know how to call a ball game. They don't know what the hell they're doing. It took me, and this is coming from me. I was around the game my entire life. My uncle caught 24 years in the big leagues. My other uncle 11 in the minors. Both catchers grew up around this stuff at a high level. But it still took me every bit of, I want to say, 5 years of playing in the big leagues before I really had a feel on how to call a game. And the numbers didn't lie. You look at the catcher's ERA and the way uh, people knew that was me. They knew that was my reputation, that they were going to get a good game called. Whether I was 0 for 4, 4 for 4, I'd always block the ball. Early on in my career, I could throw, but how many of those guys do you see now? Like I watch Jansen. I watch him catch the ball, and I'm like, I want to fix that. I want to fix that. Um, his receiving. It's very modern the way he does it, but the kid's going to end up with a broken thumb, and I don't know whether the umpires are buying into all this garbage, but when you can actually see the glove moved after it's caught the ball, how would you actually call a ball a strike when you can see the catcher trying to manipulate you by moving the glove? We got all our work done before the ball got there, and I never, not once, broke this thumb.
Yeah.
Not, in fact, I can tell you right now, there isn't a pitcher alive that ever got me. Not in 22 years of pro ball. And I watch these guys, and I'm like, how do you honestly, like, how do you hold your toothbrush at night? Because I'm watching the way the ball's hitting your mitt, and I'm thinking to myself, thank God for all the plastic you got in that glove, because it ain't gonna last. And the game calling is the last thing to come. It really is. You
Yeah.
either need a veteran catcher backing you up, or as the starter teaching you. You need a realistic pitching coach, kind of like Brad Arnsberg was, who got it, who held the pitchers accountable. Most pitching coaches are pitchers who look to blame the catcher and everybody else for the problem of the pitchers. It's typical. It's well known, because they're pitchers, and they teach them how to pitch. But yeah, it's the leadership. The leadership certainly missing. The fact that the ball club, like, forget about the fact that they're young. Forget about the fact that it's a shortened season. They're fundamentally unsound. Their defense is garbage. Their base running is garbage. Their situational hitting is garbage. I know enough by reading the game, seeing what's going on. It's been like that forever. They don't take the time to run a boot camp style atmosphere. And
Mhm.
that's what the kids need, because they're being rushed to the big leagues. They don't have enough time to stay in the minor leagues to develop quality instincts, quality skills, to get that smack when you make a mistake and really feel the sting of, ooh, man, that was a bad call. I'm going to never do that again. Or, holy crap, that was a bad read on the base paths. I need to be ready for this situation again. They don't play enough baseball in the minor leagues to be ready for it at the show. So it's really, it's not their fault. It's management's fault. You got to be able to hold these kids accountable. You got to have the backing of the front office, so that if you're going to light a player up and put a Bo Bichette on the bench, and I'm not saying he's ever done anything that should warrant, but I'm saying he's a star player.
Yeah.
Okay, he's a star young player. If I got to put one of those kids or Bryce Harper or somebody like that on the bench because I don't like the effort, because he's not running balls out, properly. You're not giving me a quality effort, making stupid mistakes on the base paths, missing cutoff men. There's no emphasis placed on this stuff anymore. And no matter how much they want to go to the metrics and say bunting is stupid, base stealing is stupid, this and that, all these things are stupid, No, they're not. At the end of the day, when it comes time to go play in real October baseball, you miss a cutoff, man, and the trail runner gets the scoring position, and then all of a sudden, bam, base hit, that guy scores, you lose the pennant, you lose the World Series. Are you telling me that that kind of stuff shouldn't have been emphasized all year long? They don't practice. They don't practice anything because if they have to go out there and do a drill, like a base running drill or an outfielding drill, the players look at it like it's punishment. If I was managing a club, especially a young club, there'd be a calendar set up before the season even started that says, you know what, on April 19th, the day after we get back from this road trip, not the day of, not the first game, second day back from the road trip, we are practicing PFPs. That way they know it's coming well beforehand. It's not a punishment, but you're still working on the fundamentals of the game throughout. You have to do that with a young club. I guarantee you the Jays aren't doing anything like that. They're showing up, prescribed batting practice time. They're there to hit. I bet you they're there. They come and they hit early. They go and they devour their macrobiotic diet that's provided for them with their high performance department. They come early. They do all the fun stuff, but I guarantee nobody's doing the other stuff. Maybe they take a couple swings, extra ground balls, whatever. But I guarantee you they're not working on pickoffs. They're not working on base running. They're not doing that stuff anymore.
Honestly, I can't tell you how disheartening this is to hear. Like, I've been watching the Jays all season, and this is a frustrating club to watch, man. The last week, so they've had 13 errors in 9 games, and that includes yesterday's game that they had 0 errors in. It feels like there's no way to solve this now after just listening to you, because I was going to ask you if you've ever been on a team where it felt like for a week or two the defensive sky was falling and what it took to kind of pull yourself out of it. But now it's just sounding like this is just how it is.
No, I've never been on that club. There might have been some clubs that were poor defensively, and I certainly had my moments where I was poor defensively. I couldn't throw the ball accurately for a while. Arm injuries and etc. But no, because you know what happened? If we made dumb mistake after dumb mistake, we got our asses chewed in the clubhouse. We got threats made to us. I remember my rookie year, I was terrified to not be able to get a bunt down because I'd get sent back to AAA.
Yeah.
I got sent back to AAA by the Orioles in 1996 because I forgot what the count was. And I came out to throw on a 3-2 count with 2 outs because I forgot how many outs or the count was. I had made a couple other marginal mistakes, like mental mistakes, and I was gone. Like you can't hold these players accountable. They'll pout, they'll call their agent, they'll quit on you. These kids, I think deep down inside, and I'm talking about a generation, I think they want to be coached. I really do. But it can't be just now and then. It has to be on a regular basis. And you have to hold them accountable. There has to be accountability, fairness and accountability. But the front office, those guys, they need to, you know what they need to do? They need to provide me with, if I'm the manager, they need to provide me with tools, metrics, so that I can formulate a game plan. And then they've got to support me when I need to go discipline a player. When I have, and trust me, yelling and screaming, it's not always the productive thing. It worked for me. It worked on me. Tough love always worked on me. It doesn't work on every player, and I'll be the first to admit it. So that's where the manager's instincts and his people skills come into place. And you know what? These guys are like trying to kind of throw everybody into the same mold. It's like, oh, we want everybody swinging up on the ball. No, you don't. Because if they weren't juicing the balls, guys like Altuve wouldn't be able to hit home runs to the opposite field. It's a physical possibility. I don't care about buzzers or anything like that. A hobbit like Altuve should not be hitting the ball 375 oppo unless the balls are juiced. That's the problem. The game has to go back to some realistic measures where you've got 3 or 4 guys in the lineup that can, with the possibility of hitting 30, 40 bombs. And I'm talking about realistic bombs, not the 40 that we're seeing now where, you know, like I said, the balls are juiced. And these guys, you know, you have to be able to go to a player and be like, hey, listen, dude, wake up. You know, you're making boneheaded mistakes. let's go get some work and let's try to hone the skills. But they don't do that at the big league level. The last club I ever saw do that, and I know this for a fact because I was like, wow, every time I come to town, the Twins are always working. They're always working. When Ron Gardenhire and Tom Kelly, TK, when they ran that club, basically when they had the young teams after the World Series years, they had a bunch of young teams and they were a small market club, so they had a bunch of cheap talent. Heck, dude, they threw away David Ortiz because he was a discipline problem for them. They got rid of him because he wouldn't buy into what they were selling. Okay, but they had some good ball clubs, some low payroll teams that made some playoff appearances. And you know what that was? That was TK and Gardenhire understanding we got a bunch of young players here. We need to work. And you know how we make it so it's not a punishment? We schedule it. Every time we come home from a road trip, we got work to do. And that's how you stay sharp. You got to practice. The veteran players, the guys that have played 6 more years that aren't boneheads, they understand how to keep their game together because they played so much baseball. They understand how to react on a crisp ground ball to the right side when they're at second and nobody's out. Heck, when I was playing, especially if I was playing against Alomar, I wanted to watch and see where he was because every once in a while that guy would creep up. If he knew he had a good pitcher on the mound that could get that ground ball to the right side, he'd come in 3 or 4 steps, and if you hit him a crisp one hopper, he'd throw the guy out at third, and nobody does that. But a veteran player is the only guy that's going to take a look around every pitch, every at bat, changing things up, making sure where are the outfielders playing. Can I score on this guy? When they used to take infield, they don't even take infield anymore. We used to go out and watch infield to see who had the good arms. But now that we've got scouting, you're not going to go first to third on a one hopper to Mookie Betts.
Right.
You're not going to do it.
No.
So, but you think any of these guys know? They're walking around with cheat sheets in their back pocket, dude. This is all stuff that we were able to easily digest and remember. Take yourself back. They're raising robots. They're robots. And they're not even good robots. You take yourself back to the World Series when the Cardinals beat the Rangers.
Yeah.
You remember what happened? Game 6? They left Nelson Cruz in to play right field, and a ball got hit over his head that one-hopped the wall. They lose Game 6, and then they come back and they lose Game 7.
I totally forgot about this.
Now, now, follow me down this rabbit hole. How in the world is Nelson Cruz in the game anyways? Like, how is he in? You need 3 outs and the game's over. How is he in the game to begin with? Not exactly a defensive wizard, but the fact that Nelson Cruz himself wasn't raised to understand that the only thing that could beat them was an extra base hit, and he wasn't standing on the warning track all by himself. How does that happen at the big league level? How are you not thinking the game? What's the one thing that can beat me right here? A home run? Where's the least likely place this guy's going to hit a home run? Opposite field. Well, why in the hell am I pitching him in? Silly, simple, like basically garden variety baseball 101 type of stuff that you learn along the way. You formulate an idea. I tell you right now, my game calling style, especially from the 7th inning on with lead, was dictated to me by Lee Smith, Randy Johnson. I can pitch in anytime I want, they tell me. But what's the reality of this guy hitting an opposite field home run and beating me? I'll give up 3 singles, and that's still 3 singles to the right side. The opposite field is still not necessarily a run. You give up a double in a base hit, that's a run.
That's the
and
game.
Most guys' extra base power is to the pull side. So these are just silly little things. You don't make the first or the last out at third base. You don't make the first out at second. It's like, come on, like all these different things that you grow up learning that I learned in Little League. A lot of these guys that are in the big leagues haven't learned them yet, don't have the reaction, because all they've cared about their entire life is how hard do you throw and what's your exit velocity and what's your launch angle.
Right.
Good God. It's awful. It's so bad.
Yeah. That's interesting. And it's funny because I've been a Jays fan since the late 80s, right? Since I was like 6 and my dad was hauling me out to watch the game or whatever, and like I hadn't even heard of exit velocity until the last 5-10 years, like that was
Yeah.
never a thing, how fast the ball was coming off the bat,
Right. Right. Well, I remember when ESPN had they were radar gunning the swings, and guys like McGuire and Griffey Jr. were generating like 90 plus miles an hour of bat speed. To me, that's more important than the exit velocity, because if you hit a ball in the barrel, it's going to jump. Um, and I don't need a computer or a radar gun to tell me whether or not a guy's got a good exit velocity. All I got to do is listen. I can hear it. I can hear the ball come off the bat. Trust me, if you're an ex-pro, you can be standing around the batting cage when somebody with serious pop gets in. You be sitting there looking away like this, and then all of a sudden, all of a sudden you're like, oh, damn, I'm going to go watch this. And if you see the ball come jumping off a bat, you know what the guy's got. Do I need a computer to help me show a guy how to get the proper launch angle on a ball to be a home run hitter? No. I know how to teach a flat to uppercut swing. I don't need a computer and Rapsodo machine in order to tell me how to do that. I just do it.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you, I know my angles. I know what 90 degree, that's a bad launch. 90 is a terrible launch angle. Okay. I can visualize the shape of most home runs. And I'm like, well, it ain't 45. It's somewhere right. Oh, good God, there's that 25 degrees.
Yeah.
Wow, mind blown. And there's certain guys, like, you think I want to take Troy Gloss and teach him how to hit grounders? He's 65. Serious pop. David Ortiz, you want me to teach him how to hit a ground ball? No, I want that guy to hit the ball in the air. And it's not real hard to teach a guy how to hit the ball in the air. It's just mind-boggling. And what it's done, this whole new kind of trend. Now, I get it. The metrics have brought a ton of people into the game that actually never played. So, and they love the numbers. They love it. The fan base it's exploded. And that's why you see the spike in the revenues over the last 10, 12 years. But what it's also done is it's got a bunch of people who never played the game making baseball decisions based on business acumen and numbers and computer programs, when what it should be is those guys giving the information to the baseball guys who actually know how to use it. I always make the same, I think the word is analogy. But I always tell people, I was like, listen, I love numbers. I love metrics. I love data. I love any kind of scouting that's going to give me an edge, including sign stealing. But you can fill a pickup truck with the best tools that money can buy down at the Home Depot, and you can drop it off at the job site. But if a bunch of skilled laborers don't show up to put the tools in their hand, ain't nothing getting built. Nothing getting built. Have we seen 130 win season since this trend of metrics and all these Ivy League business guys? Nobody's won 130. In fact, I don't think anybody's hit one more games than the Seattle Mariners that one year.
No.
We still haven't seen a guy hit 400. And minus the juice ball, offense and everything is pretty much the same. Obviously, strikeouts are up because nobody cares. Mm-hmm. But what people fail to remember is that the fielding percentage on a strikeout's 1,000. Can't make an error on a strikeout. Mm-hmm. Unless the catcher flat out misses it or it's a wild pitch, nobody reaches base, which happens very, very infrequently.
Yeah.
So what is this game? What is this game that they're throwing out there? What is this product? It's ugly and boring.
Yeah. We're going to take a little bit of a turn here. Something happened last night in baseball that I'm very curious as to what you think about. And I just learned a new unwritten rule. I thought I knew them all, but I guess this one slipped under my radar here. So Fernando Tatis Jr. hit a grand slam yesterday, 8th inning, up by 7, 3-0 count, and he swings. And Chris Woodworth, the manager of the Rangers, very upset about it. He figured that he should have just taken the pitch. How do you feel about that?
Okay, say this again. So they're up 7 runs in what inning?
in the 8th.
Oh yeah. That's. Can I say the word horse shit on your podcast?
Yeah, say horse shit all you
That's
want.
horse shit. That's horse shit. I hope they put one in his ear flap.
Okay, I like that. Let's talk about the beanball for a second here. Have you
ribcage?
Have you, as a catcher, ever told your pitcher, "All right, let's hit him"? Or is that normally on the manager or the pitcher? Or have you been like, "Okay, let's get this guy"?
I had managers who felt like they needed to tell me when to do it, but I was taught at an early age how to get it done. Yes, I've instructed guys on my team to stick up for our players, to exact retribution for people disrespecting us. Oh yeah, like hundreds of times over my hundreds of times. I loved it. I relished it. I'm a cantankerous little guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not.
Would you say that call comes from the catcher in most cases then, or is it?
Looks just like that, unless there's somebody on base, or it's this one. Go just like that. Just like that. A lot of the managers wanted to have that control, but I knew I didn't have to have a manager tell me, because the thing about it is you don't ever want to lose a ball game in order to exact revenge, and that's why I didn't understand the Blue Jays and how salty they were when the Rangers finally got their revenge on Bautista. It's their revenge, not the Blue Jays. And you know what? They did it exactly the same way I would have done it. And you go back and look at the numbers. Jose was thinking about it. He was anticipating it all year, and he had a horrible year against the Rangers when he usually tongued them. So he was thinking about it. The fear of the retribution got in his dome. And then when they finally got him, they did it the right way. They brought in somebody that was throwing hard. They dosed him. Jose took offense. He did what he thought was necessary by going after Odor, and he paid the ultimate price. And had Adrian Beltre not gotten in the way of punch number 2 and 3, they would have carried him off on a stretcher. But Tatis is, that's horrible. That's old school. And you know what? I don't know what happened. Tell me what happened. Was there a bunch of a bunch of chit chat going on?
Yeah, there was some chatter. I mean, really, a lot of it came after the game. Like the Rangers just kind of put their heads down and finished the last inning, and away you went. But afterwards, all of them were speaking up about it, and I hadn't even. I mean, logistically, it makes sense, right? You're kind of rubbing their face in it a bit, especially when you're up by that much. But I hadn't heard this unwritten rule before, and Tatis claimed he hadn't either, and he even apologized for it afterwards. But now, there's this big debate whether they're squashing the life out of baseball with these guys.
No. It's always been about showing people up. You don't embarrass your opponents. It's just, if we want to get into that, then we start talking about when do you turn off the running game. And you know what? I've always understood, a lot of people would be disagreeing with me when I say this, but you know what? You're up 5 runs. How many times have you seen a team come back from down 5 late in the ball game? Okay. So I look at it this way. When the number of outs that I need to get in a ball game in order to win are less than the number of runs that I'm up by, assuming that we're talking about 5 or more, more than a grand slam, then I'll go ahead. That's been the old adage. If a grand slam can't beat you, you stop running. Well, I would say, I agree with that to the point of, the offense is so potent nowadays, everybody can go deep 1 through 9. So I say, like I said, if once we get to 5 or more, that grand slam number where 4 can't beat me, if I've got less outs to get than I have up runs, then I'll go ahead and shut down the running game. Until then, wear it. It's going to happen. I'm going to take it, especially when your guys 1-6 to the plate. I'm going to do that. And you know what? Swinging 3-0, when you're up 7 runs in the 8th inning is garbage. The fact that he is the son of a former Major League Baseball player and he's never heard it, I call bullshit on that.
Okay.
And if he honestly has never heard it, then what the hell is his dad teaching him? Like, seriously, what's his dad teaching him? You can't just like, send a kid out into the world and not have any sort of idea how to play this game that you've taught him. You teach him all the stuff, and that includes the ugly side. I tell my guys all the time, I'm talking about 15, 16, 14, 15, 16-year-old boys. We're pitching inside. I don't care if you hit people. If somebody gets upset about it, we'll deal with it when we deal with it. But if the smart thing, and that's what I was going to. The next question I was going to ask was: is there a Twitter war going on today, or guys battling it out on Twitter?
There is.
Yeah, well,
there is,
because that's how they do. That's how they do now. Instead of just zipping the lip and going out and getting their revenge, like you put next when the Rangers play Tatis again. He has to wear one. He has to go down. As long as it doesn't cost him a ball game that could cost him a pennant, he has to wear one and go down. And if he wants to fight about it, bring it on. Let's go. You embarrass me. Your ignorance is not my problem. Somebody should have taught you better. And oh, by the way, who's managing that club, that San Diego Padres ball club? Why wasn't the take sign on?
It's a good question. Yeah, this is what all the conversation's been about, right?
They've got no leg to stand on. The Padres have no leg to stand on. And you know what? If I'm the manager of the Padres and I want to protect my guy, I'm going to basically say, listen, that's on me. Even though it should be on Tatis Jr., he should know by now.
Yeah,
that's not one of the obscure unwritten rules and nobody in the game today even wants to talk about them unless it bothers them. When they're bothered, it's a problem. When it doesn't bother them or it suits them to do something, it shouldn't be even talked about. You're taking the fun out of the game. Bullshit. It's like the only person that matters, if I'm offended by what you've done to me, I'm the only one whose opinion that matters. If I feel like you've shown me up, I'll take care of it. I'm just going to squash the chatter. I'll zip my lip and I'll exact my revenge, and I'll get it when I want it. Because that's the only one. Like you look at guys like bat flipping and pimping stuff. Hey, you tell me, if I take you deep and I bat flip you and I do some giddy stuff on the base paths, remember, it's not just my team and your team that are in the building. It's everybody else is watching. So now if I'm going to face you as an opposing player after I just watched you get absolutely punked and do nothing about it, I know you're soft. I know you don't care. You'll let me punk you and you'll do nothing about it. In fact, I'm pretty sure you're not going to pitch in. So I'm going to dig in and I'm going to swing out of my ass every time I face you because I know you're a punk. And that's why I don't get where bad pitchers are like, well, he got me. He can do whatever he wants. I'll get him and I'll do what I want. Really? Will you?
Right.
So you're sending a message to the rest of the league that you're soft and that they can get comfortable in the batter's box against you without any worry about what's going to happen if you take a big swing. Guys used to get drilled for taking big swings off of Roger Clemens, Randy Johnson, Nolan Ryan, Bob Feller, Bob Gibson, not for taking them deep, for taking too long to dig into the box, for taking too big a swing. Heck, just for being a rookie, they'd smoke you.
Right.
And send a message. And you know what happened the next time you got in the box? You were just a little bit unsure of yourself, a little bit shy. And that's what it comes down to, my man. It's a battle for real estate. And it's physical intimidation, and it's a part of every major sport that's played at the professional level. I think I'm bigger and stronger than you. I'm going to do my best to intimidate you so that you can't perform against me. If people don't like it, turn the channel. But you don't see any of that anymore.
Well, it's sure interesting to see how much it almost adds to the camaraderie in the clubhouse. Watching Joe Kelly hit and go after the Astros like he did this year. I don't know if you even saw that, but the guy
saw that.
It was even just as a fan, it was fun to watch, even if it went a little far or however you want to take it. But like, he really did come out and was like, no, everything they did was wrong. This is why I feel it. And I'm standing up against this. And you never see that anymore, or rarely.
Right, wrong, or indifferent. I can imagine, so a couple of problems I have with that. Joe's probably not the guy to be running his mouth weighing all $150 that he weighs. And throwing 95 plus at a guy's head is kind of weak. You feel that strongly about it, smoke the guy, drill him in the ribs, and then get ready. So that's really my own the trash talking and the airmail and stuff over guys' heads.
Right.
I don't play. I mean, I know I said put one in Tatis's ear flap earlier, but that's just a figure.
Yes.
I mean rib cage, low on the body, but let him know. I don't agree with everybody in the game being as upset about the sign stealing as they are, because it's still going on today. Guaranteed.
Of course it is.
Of course it is. It's going on today. It was going on when I was playing. The Yankees, the Red Sox, those guys were awesome at it. They had dedicated cameras. A-Rod and Jeter are two of the best I've ever seen. And then flip the script. You got Jason Varitek was the most paranoid guy I've ever seen. He changed the signs every 15 minutes. Think back to when he was playing and how many trips out to the mound that guy did. He was out there every 15 pitches when there were runners on base, changing signs because he knew his team was doing it.
Yeah.
And it's such a joke that Major League Baseball says, "Oh, let's use electronics and technology everywhere else, but let's eliminate the ability to use technology to get signs." You tell me what's the fundamental principle difference between stealing signs with a camera and using a computer and an algorithm to figure out the pitch pattern of a pitcher?
It's a good point.
What's the difference? It's technology. You're using technology to gain an advantage. If we really want to go down this rabbit hole, and I love just going, let's get rid of weight rooms in the clubhouse. Let's get rid of anti-inflammatory medication. Let's get rid of therapeutic use exemptions for the seemingly 90% ADD Major League Baseball population. Let's get rid of the high performance departments, protein powders and everything. And let's just bring it back down to you versus me. All we're allowed to do is throw the ball, hit the ball, catch the ball, run, and use our bodies to train. And then we find out who's the better baseball player and who's the better team, who trains their club better. But no, they want to say technology is fine here, go ahead and use it, but it's not okay over here. We want to level the playing field for the morons that are in Major League Baseball who haven't been taught to use a complicated set of signs by the time they get to the big leagues. And trust me when I tell you, nothing different about banging a trash can or saying, "Hey, Gregg, let's go." All right. And then the next pitch is a break him on. He goes, "All right, there, Zaun, let's go. All right, let's go, number 9. Oh, it's a changeup now."
Right.
Those are the oldest things ever. I mean, I can tell you stories about the teams that I played on and how we stole signs at second base with our eyeballs. So I knew that everybody else was doing it in the league because I'd be putting down a pretty complicated set of signs, and A-Rod and Jeter be standing at second base. They were the first ones to second, and they were on me as soon as I freaking put the thing down. I was like, "God damn, he already knows what's coming."
Yeah.
How is that possible if you don't have electronic surveillance going on? But I don't care. I honestly don't care. If you're so stupid and so inept that you can't incorporate a complicated set of signs to keep the opponents off of you, you get what you deserve. You should get your head caved in. You should have an inflated ERA. That team should beat you because they're smarter than you. Plain and simple.
I actually really like that take. I mean, you touched on it earlier too about how you just don't see the experienced catchers on a club anymore. And those are the guys who would know a complicated set of signs. Those are the guys who would be able to pass that information along. So it's kind of like
the pitchers don't get taught it during their minor league careers, because if they're any good, they're not in the minors very long. But they are like, "Oh my God, I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. I can't maintain my rhythm and my timing while deciphering complicated sets of signs." I had if I could just get a guy with half a brain, all I had to do was tell him, well, I asked him a question first. I said, if I put this between my legs, what does it mean? He's like, fastball. I said, what about this? Curveball. What about that? Slider. What about that? Changeup. And then I do it again. I say, what does this mean? He goes, fastball. I said, why? Why does it have to mean fastball? Why can't it mean curveball? Why can't it mean something else? Why does it always have to be one's a fastball and two's a curve? Mind blown.
No, it's a good point.
But like literally, I say, let's rank your pitches. How about let's do it that way? What's your favorite pitch? I love my slider. Slider. Okay. And what about what kind of fastball do you throw? I throw a four-seamer. There, fastball. 4 fingers, 4 seams, fastball. And then all of a sudden, every set of signs that has ever been created, maybe not necessarily now, but most part, it's all predicated on one's a fastball, two's a curve. But what if two's a curveball? Now all of a sudden I can use really simple signs because they got the wrong values for each finger I put down. Problem solved. They don't think, they don't know. And like I go back to the minor leagues. They don't teach them. Every level, every stop should require a tougher set of tasks that need to be accomplished. When you're talking about babies and rookie ball and A ball, you're talking about bongo, see ball, hit ball, catch ball, throw ball. You're talking about teach them how to throw strikes, a little bit of theory, a little bit of approach. At the AA level, you start to increase what you're asking of your players to be able to do and how they think. By AAA, it should just be about them executing more often and getting themselves ready to learn how to play winning baseball and get that call. They should already understand, first sign indicator, previous pitch indicator, pumps, with an indicator, all these different sets of signs that we used, changing the values of the fingers. All of that stuff can be done lickety split. Easy if you just take the time to teach them and have some expectations at the lower levels and hold them accountable. Get rid of these $6-7 million signing bonuses so you don't feel like you're worried about the kid blowing out in AA. He hasn't earned it. I mean, seriously, you're going to give a kid a $7 million signing bonus for what he did against a bunch of amateurs, 90% of which will never see a pro field, let alone the big leagues, and you coughed up $7 million? That's double the average salary in the big leagues. How about a slap in the face for all your union members?
Yeah.
The Johnny McDonald's of the world that grind out a 10, 12-year career and never see $7 million. Probably never saw $7 million total. Like, come on. You're going to give all that money to some kid? Like, I don't even know. Like, what did they pay the first pick for the Jays this year? Who did he play against? I know he was at Vanderbilt, but who did he really play against? Same thing with Strasburg. He was at San Diego State, for Christ's sake. Like, how good could the competition have been? 99% of the players that he was throwing against in his amateur career, their careers ended when they left college. And you're going to reward him by giving him $6.5-7 million? It's a garbage. It's absolute garbage. Leave the kids alone. Let them learn to play the game. Hire competent minor league coaches, guys that have actually played the game of baseball, and compensate them to the point where being a minor league manager or a coach is actually something that they can do for a living and actually put food on their table. Guys are making $20,000-$30,000 a year, and they're coaching a guy that's got $7 million in the bank and driving a Maserati. It's a joke.
Honestly, Gregg, we could sit here and talk baseball all day with you. I don't want to keep you too long here. Do you have a few more minutes here? I've got some listener questions here. If you got a few seconds. Yeah?
No problem.
All right. This one's from Darren, and he asks, who in your playing career was your biggest influence or help in reaching your starting role behind the plate with the Jays?
There were a couple, actually. Jim Leland played a huge role in thickening my skin. I had an awful year in '98, and he was there to just pound me into oblivion. But like I said, I respond to tough love. Brad Osmus had a real profound effect on my game calling. This guy's a next level thinker. And he really helped me hone my game calling craft to the point where I felt like I was his equal, if not better. And I always thought he was a great game caller. So those two guys right there, both catchers, believe it or not. And my uncle Rick is Rick Dempsey. He was there, but not as he wasn't there on a daily basis. I mean, I just think those two guys really had a profound effect on me. And then as far as the offensive side of it, um, you know, I got to the Blue Jays at a good time, and Merv Rettenman happened to be the hitting coach, the minor league roving hitting instructor, and I went to AAA for a blip, and got to work with him for like 3 weeks, and he just kind of smoothed me out, got my brain calm and quiet, and I came to the Blue Jays like on fire, swinging the bat, and the rest is history, and I was able to really kind of change the way I was perceived offensively. Started throwing up some double-digit home run years, I think 3 in a row with the Jays. Um, so those three guys right there really had probably the most effect on me.
Awesome. Jen asks, we've got a couple softer questions here now. Jen asks, do you like the new baby blue Blue Jays uniforms?
I don't mind them. They're, I love nostalgia. At the end of the day, it's cool. When we wore them, they were our Friday night uniform when I was with the Jays. I don't think I got one hit in that uniform. So personally, I was.
You're like, I can do without it. Yeah.
And I had the day off, but from a nostalgia standpoint, I don't mind them. They're all right.
Awesome. And then Brett asks, when was the last time? This is kind of goofy. When was the last time you did a deep squat that wasn't behind home plate?
2 days ago. I'm still pretty heavy into weightlifting, and I get in there quite a bit, and believe it or not, I will get down and catch my own pitchers from time to time in the bullpen just to see what their stuff looks like. Once you got it, you got it.
Yeah.
My knees were intact. I didn't have any knee surgeries. I took good care of my legs, and believe it or not, when my low back is out or I feel like crap, I actually sit down in a squat position. That's like a warm blanket for me. So I know it sounds crazy, but it puts me right back into that's my fetal position.
That's catching running through your veins if I've ever heard it.
Yeah, that's my happy spot. I'm feeling good now.
And then Matt asks, most athletic teammate you've ever played with?
Oh, goodness gracious. Think. One name pops to mind right now. Didn't really amount to much. Jeffrey Hammonds was a tremendous athlete. He just couldn't stay healthy. I'll answer that with a kind of a detour. The most surprisingly athletic guy I ever played with, Levon Hernandez.
Really?
Unbelievable. The guy could hit. He could throw it. He could make up pitches, had a great feel for throwing the ball, fielded his position like a middle infielder, and he was a damn near scratch golfer.
Awesome. Yeah. And then he also asks, and he's like, if he's not comfortable saying, that's fine, least athletic athlete you've ever played with.
Oh God, 90% of the pitchers that I ever caught. Awful. Because we used to call them the non-athletes.
Right.
They were blessed to have a thunderbolt for an arm, and they couldn't do anything else. Like literally nothing else. Terrible. Absolutely horrible athletes. Most pitchers are horrible athletes.
All right. And then the last one here, Adam asks, on the World Series champions Marlins you played for, you were the backup catcher. Was it tough to stay focused with a diminished role? And what did you take from that championship?
No, it wasn't tough for me at all because the first 8 years of my career were as a backup. I got a little bit of a chance in '98, but I crapped all over myself. It was terrible. No, I was used to it, and I had developed a daily routine that kept me sharp and ready. And Jim Leland put me into situations that gave me a chance to be successful, and I had success. I hit 301 that year as the backup, only guy in the National League to do so at the backup position. So I had a good year, and I threw some guys out, and we won the World Series. But when you play for an intense manager like Jim, you don't survive too many lapses in enthusiasm, in judgment, in focus. I guess I was terrified. I got every single bunt in my career down except one, Game 7 of the World Series, and it took a diving play by Charles Nagy to break my streak. And everyone after that got down. I was just raised to know that there are certain guys that have to be fundamentally sound. When I get the hit and run, I got to put a ball in play on the ground. When I get the bunt side, I need to get the bunt down. I
Boy,
need
that's
to
a skill that doesn't exist anymore, right?
no, nobody practices it. Nobody cares enough to do it. It takes some guts too. It's not easy to square around and stare 95 down and put it on the barrel and get it angled where you want it to go. It's the easiest thing in the world to do and the hardest thing in the world to do. Because if you don't want to do it, if you're not all in, you're gonna suck at it.
Right. Well, Gregg, thank you so much, my man, for taking the time to talk to us here. Honestly, it's been awesome.
Well, I enjoyed it.
Widen that Zauntourage. Let me in.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I enjoyed talking. I love talking ball, as you can tell. I'll go on forever. So it's my pleasure, and let me know if you ever need me again. It was fun.
Awesome, right on. Before you go here, if you could get us to just be like, hey, this is Gregg Zaun. You're listening to the Walk Off with Scott Belford and Adam Mack. That would be amazing.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, gang, this is Gregg Zaun, and you're listening to the Walk Off with Adam Belford and brain cramp.
Scott Belford, Adam Mack.
Scott Belford and Adam Mack. There's my dyslexia going on. Scott Belford and Adam Mack. All right, again, here we go. Hey, everybody, this is Gregg Zaun. You're listening to the Walk Off with Scott Belford and Adam Mack.
Awesome, brother. Thank you so much.
No problem, guys. Cheers.
All right. All the best to you, dude. Thank you.